Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just going to wait a few moments while we let folks filter in. And in the meantime, feel free to enjoy this wonderful starting slide featuring our very own alum, Ted Hayes. Hi, Ted. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to our time together. I hope there's a lot of interaction from the folks who participate in the call.
Awesome. Me too. Me too. I think it's a good one today. Fail your way to success. So I'm excited and yeah. So just a couple of housekeeping items. So my name is Jenna Quinn, and it's my pleasure as the Assistant Director of Alumni and Affinity Engagement to welcome you all to this edition of our 49er Industry Chat. We just need to inform everyone that this is being recorded. So really what that means for you is that this will be available for you to view again on our website at www.csulb.edu/alumni. So feel free to watch it again, share it with a friend, send it to a colleague, a peer, or anyone you feel might get something good out of this. Since it's a webinar format, we encourage everyone here to go ahead and submit their questions into the Q&A box. You don't have to wait until the end to submit it. Just as soon as a question pops into your head, go ahead and put it in and we'll get it relayed over to Ted. And with that, just very happy to get this ball rolling, get this show on the road. So let me read your bio. So Ted has a passion for converting chaos to order and developing sustainable solutions to complex business challenges that achieve mission outcomes. He thrives on using process to transform IT organizations and facilitating behavior change management to help personnel adopt new and improved ways of working. Ted has received the Microsoft Circle of Excellence, Top Subsidiary Award, Spark Award, and Hero Award. He is a recognized industry expert in ITIL Service Management, a project management professional, and a certified change practitioner. Ted has led global teams and delivered services to customers on site in Australia, Asia, Europe, and North America. Welcome, Ted. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just dive right in. Let's start off with a little bit of background on you. What was your life like? What were your experiences like before coming to the beach, and what led you to the beach?
Okay, I have an answer for that. Sometimes questions you're not sure how to answer, but that one I got an answer for. So I went to Biola Bible Institute of Los Angeles. That's in La Mirada, California. I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and I was really looking forward to getting some biblical knowledge and getting a four-year degree. But they didn't have a vocation that I was a photography major and I hit the top class as a freshman. So that wasn't a well-rounded curriculum. So I decided I wanted to go into business administration, and that was not a program that Biola had fleshed out yet. So I looked at Long Beach State and was accepted there. So I moved over to Long Beach to get the business degree in computer methods. And the thing is, Biola was so well recognized academically that all of my Bible courses went right into slots in Long Beach. So I didn't have to deal with elective credit or extend my time. So I went to Long Beach State. I worked during the time as an intern, which was kind of difficult to be truthful. I worked part-time. I went to school full-time. I was a commuter student, which looking back, I regret, because I miss a lot of the on-campus activities and frankly, the relationships students build and develop, because college is tough. I mean, I remember that was the toughest time of my life, actually. Working was easier. I took a break once I went full-time into work after I got out of school. There was one exception when I was at chief architect role at EDS. That was 80 hours a week when I had that global role. I had teams in Europe and Australia and Canada and the North America and Germany. And that was well, but beside that, college was rough. So not being on campus to experience the struggles and the successes, I think was something I missed. My employer, however, did pay my way to school, so that was helpful. And once I got out, I immediately had a job. But interesting enough, I worked at TRW, which now is Northrop Grumman, because they've since sold. And TRW said, oh, okay, well, we've paid your way. You've been here as an intern part-time. Now you have a degree. We're going to bump up your salary a little bit. And then Hughes Space and Communications Company was looking at me and said, hey, you have a 4-year degree, plus you have 2.5 years of experience at TRW. We're going to give you this. I said, okay, well, see you later, TRW. And I went down the street from Redondo Beach to El Segundo and started working for Hughes Space and Communications Company. So that's how I came to Long Beach, to the beach, and how it equipped me in business computer methods. I guess that I would finish this discussion saying one of the areas, since I am an IT professional, that made me unique that I'd share with the folks on the call that are interested in an IT vocation or profession career is rounding yourself with both the business and technical disciplines. There's a lot of folks that just understand IT, the bits and bytes we call it, but they don't understand how to apply IT to the business outcomes of customers or even their current employer. And that's sorely missing. And that differentiates you to have a business IT combination skill set as opposed to just only business or just only IT. So having that business computer methods degree from Long Beach State, which subsequently was known in the industry as management information systems, that's really helped me throughout my career to be that differentiated person and to carve a market niche for myself in the industry and help me with my career financially and just opportunity wise. So it's been a good experience to be from Beach and having moved on from that.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's, I mean, very comprehensive. So thank you for that and for that foundation. But I think next I kind of want to ask, like, how did you find your way into your field, into IT? How did you know that that's what you wanted to do? And was your journey there intentional, or did you find your way there?
Yeah, that's another good question. So for me, it was intentional, but actually statistically, as I recall before looking at the data, most people graduate in an area that they don't actually have a profession in. So if you're one of those people, don't feel unusual. That's actually the predominant course path. But for me, my dad, he was at TRW. He was a chief engineer. In fact, he has accolades. He was the chief engineer of a Pioneer satellite, which if you ever go on the internet, you'll find that was a leading communication satellite that helped the United States and so on. But the point is, he gave me an Apple IIe, and I learned to code in Visual Basic.
Wow.
And what I loved about, and this is part of the fail to success, is when you code in computers, if it doesn't work, you find the issue in your code, you fix it, you recompile it, and you run it again, and you repeat that process until it works. And so you're literally failing your way to success. Where in contrast, being that I was in the aerospace industry, namely communication satellite construction, boy, I was surrounded by PhDs. These guys knew stuff. And well, if you think about it, when you launch a communication satellite to high Earth orbit and it breaks or it doesn't operate anymore, you can't bring that sucker down. So you got to do it right the first time. And so that was a little bit daunting for me to have everything figured out all at once. But when I went into I did start in the business track doing cost accounting and business operations. But when I looked into IT, I basically came to a crossroads. I could either go be a controller, which was my next level of promotion, and that had XYZ salary, and it was about 5 years away for me to do that. Or I could go into IT, and I realized instead of getting postgraduate degrees like masters and PhDs to advance your salary, these guys in IT, they were getting certificates, and they were like $3,000 a piece as opposed to $10,000 comparatively speaking for an advanced degree. And you would just keep getting certificates because the only constant in IT is change, because we're constantly changing with the new technology. So I found that was a great industry, because when you deploy a modification to the user environment and it doesn't work, you figure out what broke and you fix it and you redeploy it, as opposed to not being able to bring that satellite down and making sure you got all the math and the science and making that perfect. So that's what led me to IT, is I had a proclivity for computers because my dad gave me that Apple IIe. And then as I went into TRW, I started automating things with macros and fourth generation languages. And anybody who knows their stuff knows I'm dating myself when I say that. It was basically post punch cards era that I came in onto the scene. So fortunately, I didn't have to deal with punch cards, but we did talk about it at Long Beach. But in any event, that's how I got into it. Is it was purposed to be in IT, and I started my business area because that's what I got my degree in. I was a power user, as they call it. And so the technical people liked me because I knew the business aspects of what the systems were that they were developing. And then I started becoming a lead developer from a requirements perspective in the IT area. And then I realized, hey, why don't I just go fund myself and get one of these certifications? I got a Master Novell Certified Engineer. And then I started going up the IT path. And I eventually, and I'll finish here, is I got into a role at Electronic Data Systems, where they appreciated the fact that I had IT experience, but also had the business acumen. And then that put me into a new realm of career advancement, because I had those two domains together in one person and was able to apply IT to meet the business outcomes of my customers. So that's how it came about.
I like it. A double threat, if I ever heard one.
Amen.
So I'm curious, I said before, I think that the title of this chat, Failure Way to Success, is such a great title, because I think that there's never a time when people don't feel like it's a common thing for people to feel as though they're failing at something, and how can they learn from it and parlay that into something greater and bigger and better. So I wanted to ask you about that. What do you feel was maybe your first big failure, or some big failures that were really important to you? And how did you become comfortable with that, with failing and picking yourself back up?
Yeah, those are, again, good questions. The first part of it is, what's my biggest one? Well, there's too many, so I don't know if we have enough time for me to go through. But things that would come to mind. So when I was early on so I left TRW and Hughes, and I went to the IT path, which was that certified Novell, that master certified Novell engineer. So we were doing local area networks at a value-added reseller based in Hermosa Beach, but our customers were legal offices in Beverly Hills and Century City. And so here's one of the takeaways. I had the certificate, but I didn't have the industry experience.
Mm.
And by the way, we call that a paper CNE. And I'm telling you, it's really significant, because and I'll digress for a second. If you don't have the experience that aligns to the certification, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So you do benefit from both. You need the hands-on industry experience, but the certification gives you the ability to market yourself and to sell yourself to employers or to customers as having that expertise. But I'll tell you, when I interview people now, I am much less concerned about their degrees, or even, well, usually a basic degree. I need a 4-year degree, and these days you really need a master's, to be honest with you, to stay at pace. But I don't really take too much credence in the number of certifications they have. I want to know what they did with that certifications and the results they produce in line with business expectations or business enablement. So a failure I had was in that role, we did billable hours. And if you didn't know, legal offices, they hate IT because it comes straight out of their profits. They hate IT,
I can
but
imagine.
they have to have IT because they use it for pleadings, for the briefs, for the court and all that stuff. Well, I didn't have the industry experience, so I was trying to figure out how to do this stuff right there on the job. But I'm knowing I need to bill, so I'm billing. And the short of it is, the customer realized when the invoice came into them, said, "Man, this is a big number," and that guy was in there forever. But the other guy, he would be in here quicker and out, and I wouldn't have this big bill. So I learned a couple of things. One is you have to be sure you market yourself in a professional way. I remember saying some things to that customer. Yeah, I'm new. I'm not sure yet how to do this. That was a big mistake because when the invoice came in, they weren't willing to pay because I had confessed I don't have the industry experience. So as a consultant, I've since learned, and I impart this to your audience, you really do fake it until you make it, which means that you need, and this goes to your point of how do you get past this, you need to have confidence through these failures that you have the ability to learn. You have the ability to learn. You have the ability to adapt and recover. You can't say, woe is me. And frankly, it's going to be hard and it is emotional. If you get walked out or you're asked to leave or you're laid off, that's emotional. And you have every right and you should take time to be emotional, respond to that. But you need to recover. So it's the fact that you pick yourself up, you recognize what happened, you do an analysis of what needs to be different. In my case, I learned from that day forward, always be professional in front of my customers. Yes, I'm building friendships, but they're not my buddies. They're people that are paying high invoice costs. So I need to deliver services in a professional way while being transparent. I'm not going to lie. And if I need help, I'm going to engage help as opposed to try to figure it out on the job while I'm billing the customer. That's another thing that I learned. So at Microsoft, and this is part of the same answer, we have something called a growth mindset. A growth mindset. The only constant besides change is continually learning. And doggone it, our CEO, Satya Nadella, it's daunting. He says, I want you to learn everything. I say, oh, dude, that cloud, AI, that's lots. Well, we need to have a fundamental understanding of those domains. But the point is continually learning. So when you're in a situation and you don't understand how to perform, at Microsoft in the growth mindset, we have a network of people and we go to them and it's not looked at badly that I don't know because dude, you're with a lot of smart people at Microsoft. It reminds me of the days of the PhDs in aerospace. And it's a blessing to be you're a small fish in a big pond when you come here. At other companies, I was the big fish in the small pond and I'm rocking around, feeling my oats. You come to Microsoft, you cannot be arrogant because there's somebody who knows more than you do, but they're willing to help you. So this is what you need to do is have a people network, a support network, not only emotionally, but professionally. I don't understand how to present myself with these legal offices and delivering IT services. Hey, John, what have you done that's worked for you? Oh, I see what I did differently. I did that. Oh, I could do this differently. Thank you. I'm going to apply that next time. And then you pick yourself up and you move forward with confidence. And this is called resilience. You need to build this resilience in you, continually learn. That learning will give you confidence to present yourself, but recognize you'll learn some phrasing, like the best word for consultants is, oh, it depends. It all depends. And you can't be a consultant unless you know that phrase. It all depends. And then you're buying yourself time and scenarios to communicate to the customer. So you can't be locked down to say, well, you were wrong. You don't know what you're doing. No, I said it depends. And now we have more information. And based on that new information available, then we suggest this course of action. So you start understanding how to word things that doesn't put you in a negative light to the customer, but you're in a positive light because they have confidence in you. Why do they have confidence in you? And here's the takeaway, because you're owning their issue. You're taking time to understand their environment, their business environment. They've presented you with a business challenge. You're owning that issue and you build confidence in yourself that you can work through your people network and do your offline research to come back with a viable solution. This gives you the confidence that no matter what situation I'm currently in, I can talk my way through it because I have the depth and breadth of Microsoft behind me. I have my ability to do searches. Chat GPT, I'm telling you, that helps us. You got to vet the answers, but it saves me a lot of research. To be truthful, that's another resource. Build this up, gain confidence, understand how to present yourself professionally to a customer, own their issue, and at the end of the day, this is a key phrase I would tell you, and then I'll finish the answer to my question. is when you're in front of that customer and they're asking you to do something, then this is what you say. Well, how do you define success for that? Or what does success look like for you? And at that second, you must be quiet. And there'll be this huge pregnant pause because most of the customers have never been presented that question. And they're being paid. I mean, I'm working with senior directors, CIOs. They can't say, I don't know. They're being paid too much. So they'll sit there and they'll ponder. And then all of a sudden, ooh, there'll be a wealth of stuff. They'll tell you regulations they need to align to, the challenges that they have because of their merger, the people you need to talk to, their core competency where they're looking to build into a new market, stuff that you never would have had enough knowledge to ask them all the questions, but you were just quiet. How do you define success in what you're asking me to do? So then you take that and that becomes your cornerstone to build a solution, working with your network to get a solution done for them. And then now you have reference business. Oh, Ted, man, he knew what he was doing. Well, shoot, I had all of Microsoft behind me. So it's the way you work with others and your resources and realize you're alone will not know it all. Understand how to build rapport with your colleagues and then pull together. They help me and then they come to me and I help them. And this is how we grow together. Just have the confidence of how to present yourself to that customer, that employer, and then realize that you can come back and earn their trust in you. And then you'll feel much more comfortable in situations that you're unfamiliar with or feel that you're not qualified to do. Just don't give up and keep pursuing.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think we have a couple of questions that came in, so I want to relay these, the ones from the audience. So first one is, considering the topic of this chat, do you have any advice to the typical interview question? What are your weaknesses?
Oh, okay. Well, you want to be transparent because if you say you have no weakness, then they know that you're blowing, the employer, the interviewer, they know that you're blowing smoke. So the question is so I just told you my weakness. I was insecure in that legal office's story where I was telling my customer, I really don't know, I'm new, it's the first time I've done this. That was not a good idea. So, but you could say, oh, I haven't seen this before. I'm going to try a few things, but then I think I want to bring in a phone a friend. I'm going to bring in one of my colleagues. But the point is, recognize where your weakness is. Like maybe you have attention deficit. Then you could say, yeah, that's one of the things I struggle with is when people go on and on and on and I don't hear their point. I need to ask them to repeat that because I'm challenged with attention deficit. Or I really have a difficulty in public spaces. However, this is how I'm addressing it. I'm going to what's it called? Toastmasters is a great solution if you're having a hard time with public speaking. So my point is own your weakness and then understand how you can make that as a strength. So a strength would be, but I've taken this in control and I have this path that I'm with a growth mindset, learning how to overcome that or to manage it, or I bring another person in with me into the meeting. And so what I don't catch, I have debriefings with them, and then I can add my strengths with it, which is systems analysis. That's my superpower. And then I can add my colleague's strength, who frankly has better short-term memory than I do. And together we're able to manage a 1-2 punch and have a great customer solution. So own your weakness, but don't present it as something that causes you to be weak.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But you understand you recognize it, this is how you deal with it. And then collectively, now that I brought my partner in, now we have two heads are better than one. So you're even better off the fact that I have attention deficit. So hopefully that kind of gives you a model to respond to those weaknesses.
Yeah, I think, I think what I was hearing from that was like to take Microsoft's growth mindset and kind of run with that for that answer.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. You will not know it all. Do not present yourself as owning it all, but give a confident response on how you will get the answer and that you will own that answer on behalf of the customer until it's to their satisfaction. You do these things, you will not be perceived as weak.
That's awesome. And then another question that came in, what resources do you typically what resources do you typically turn to for continuous learning and staying on top of industry trends?
Yeah, so the industry trends thing, and I'll come back to the first part of the question. Um, back in the day, we started with waterfall. So I had a lot of experience in program and project management and process architecture, and now I'm a behavioral change consultant. We did waterfall, and then we got into this new thing about time boxing. I was a project management professional, so we talked about time boxing. And then we talked about rapid application development. And the whole point is you're taking this big system and break it down in pieces. Well, now we call it agile. My point is it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same principle. It's taking big thing into this new piece, into smaller pieces, but we call it something else, and it's kind of a marketing thing. So industry trends, the only thing about industry trends is to understand what the new labeling is for stuff you already know. So don't get so bent out of shape on, oh, it's new, I got to do this, or this is the leading agile everything. Yeah, agile, great. So we have a scrum master. Well, we used to call that a project manager. And oh man, now you have 2-week sprints. Yeah, we used to call that time boxing. Oh man, we have epics. Yeah, we call that a work breakdown structure. Whatever, it's a new term, but it's the same principle. So go with the only thing about industry trends is know what the new language is so you can speak the language of your customer. But don't get bent out of shape that, oh my gosh, I'm not qualified, I can't do this, it's new. Just understand what the principles are that are underpinning that new language. And this is a behavioral change principle. People learn based on something they already know. This is how humans, you and me, operate. We relate new things to something we already know. And if you look a little bit deep enough, you'll start characterizing the new thing and realizing it has a lot of the characteristics of something you already know. Just adopt the new language, but then continue to grow. And maybe it adds something new, maybe it adds a new light, and then you add that to your toolbox. But just don't be freaking out about new industry trends until you realize if it's actually revolutionary or just a new marketing and packaging of something you already know. And I think I forgot the first part of that question. Can you help me?
Resources that you typically turn to for continuous learning.
Thank you. So oddly enough, maybe to people here, I'm not a big reader, but I read a lot. So that's a contradiction in terms. So I'm not a huge book reader. I do a lot of Audible, but I don't do a lot of reading books. But I tell you, when I have a new engagement for a customer, I'll go to their website and I'll understand about, Contoso, the name of the company, and I'll research them. I'll do some searches on the internet with their name. The latest thing I've been using is Bing, go figure, right? Microsoft. And it's Chat GPT background. And I'm telling you, that thing does well. That AI interface, the chat, do well. So the key thing here's your takeaway as far as industry research is you have to learn to ask the right question. You need to learn to ask the right question. And I can't really give you a scientific answer to that, but that's something you should focus on. And by asking the right question that will lead me to success. Like, how do you define success? Well, that's a right question, by the way. If I'm trying to figure out recently, here. So we're with the Army Futures Command right now. We're rolling out a Windows 11 upgrade. And everybody might say, well, Windows has been around. Well, believe it or not, the DoD is a little bit behind most people. So we're upgrading to Windows 11. And so the users, they're just like everybody else. They resist change. So what would entice them to want to learn Windows 11? Features. So then I don't have a lot of time. I'm doing a lot of, I'm working a lot of hours. So, hey, Bing, why don't you tell me, what are the features that users most appreciate in Windows 11? And it starts, I said, oh, that one will resonate with what I know about Army's Future Command. That one, not so much. Oh, that one will help us grow our business at Microsoft. I want to share that one as well. And so I start piecing together the AI portals that are available on the internet to give me information for me, the professional, to determine what applies to my customer. And then I take those things. I don't take it verbatim. I don't take it just because it said it. I vet it in my own experience. So I do a lot of internet searches. I've got all these certificates. I don't even list them anymore for the reasons I stated earlier in my answer. I got all kinds of three-letter, in fact, we call them TLAs, three-letter acronyms, all over the place. But it doesn't matter. But from there, I have vernacular of that new certificate, and I adopt that. So that would be another source of research. The fact that and then my past engagements, every time I deliver a customer engagement, and I have a whole slew of them. If you go to LinkedIn, Ted Hayes, you'll find my resume out there. I got a whole mess of customers that it was fortunate when I worked for IT outsourcing, I got to service a whole mess of customers and never leave the same employer. It was electronic data systems, but I had all these different industries because these customers were from different industries that we did IT outsourcing to. So I have IP, intellectual property, that I delivered to them and other customers at Microsoft. I can go back to that, especially the stuff at Microsoft. And then I use that as my source of research. And then I mine that IP within Microsoft, within our intranet of other people of my type of profession. And I get their IP and then I review it. So I do a lot of cursory review of existing collateral, and then I take slides or even tidbits out of it, and then I create my own. So that's honestly, my source of research is existing collateral that's been proven through a delivery, chat GPT or AI capabilities, my own past deliveries. I use that as a knowledge base, and then my people network. I learned to ask the right questions. So I go back to my network and I ask them, hey, have you ever seen this? What's been your experience on this? What's your perspective? And that's a really great question. What's your perspective? And then be quiet and listen. Just listen. They may stumble. They may be processing. They may be a slow processor or whatever. Just be quiet. Don't interrupt the response because you'll cut off golden nuggets if you talk. So just be quiet and listen, and then assimilate what applies to your situation, write it down and use it. So there you go.
So so this is something that I usually ask a little later for every industry, no matter who I'm talking to, but you've been mentioning it so much that I just have to ask it now. So how is AI affecting the way you do your job in your industry? And is it a good thing or a bad thing?
So it's an easier question for me to answer. It'd be harder for a technologist to answer that question because behavioral change management is technology agnostic. So the way we do behavioral change management is, what is the change? So the change in our case at Microsoft is a technical deployment. It could be back in the days when we had the bank bailouts. One of the changes were the AIG was one of my customers. I think I can reference them. It was a previous employer, so I can't get in trouble with Microsoft at least. They were hit up, were bailed out, and the Fed wanted them to have procedures to make sure they didn't need to be bailed out again. So that new way of doing business was captured in a business process. That was a change. So then people resist change. So how do we make them aware, the people that now need to consume that new process, how do we make them aware of that? What knowledge do they need to do in order to perform the new way of working as a result of this change? What ability do we expect them to demonstrate in achieving success? It could be permissions to tools, it could be training. How do we reinforce that? To make sure that after the project is over, they don't revert back to the old ways of working. So, so AI is the question, how are you applying AI to your business and how did you achieve that objective before? That is the change. So we the change practitioners will partner with a technical team to understand, okay, well, is this a new, like right now, Bing is a new way to get to knowledge. Well, I need to know how to chat with Bing and hit the try it now button. And then I need to know the right question, because if you enter the wrong question, you're going to get a lousy AI response. So that would be part of the change. So what are some tips I could give these users on AI as to ask the right question? There's another thing is, what else is changing? Well, ethics, huge ethical implications from AI. Well, we didn't have to worry about those ethical things. So what is AI capable of doing that we couldn't do before relative to being invasive with privacy or other ethical concerns? Well, that delta is a change. So how do we put guardrails in place in order to manage it in an ethical way to apply AI? So what I'm trying to explain to you and to simplify it in the most basic terms is you need to define what the change is when it comes to behavioral change management, which is my current profession. And then once you do that, you then put together the awareness, the knowledge, the ability, the reinforcement, and the desire. By the way, you need to tell people, why do they care about this change? What's in it for them? That's a big part of it, by the way. If we don't do that, then we see the research tells us they'll resist the change. But once we realize how we'll benefit from it, which could be, I'm going to lose my job, that could be a desire. It's not usually the desire, but we have to say that to them. You do these 5 things: awareness, desire, knowledge to do the change, ability, demonstrating the proficiency to adapt to the change, and then reinforcement. That's how you would apply to the AI change, but you would apply that 5-stage approach method to any change. AI, the only thing about AI is you just need to be able to do a gap analysis. How did we do this before AI? What are we doing now with AI differently here? What's the difference? And then you address how to manage the people change to embrace that new way of working.
So what would you say is the most challenging part of your job? And also, what is the most rewarding?
Yeah, so good. Yeah, you've done this before. So these are very good questions. So the most challenging thing, so Microsoft's stressful. The reason why is you have to be on top of your game. I mean, I think last I remember we're billing, I know I can't tell you what we're billing. We're billing multiple hundreds of dollars an hour for our services. So if you're the customer, you're expecting that you're receiving value and commensurate to that. I don't get paid, by the way, that level. I get paid about 20% of what we bill. And I think that's okay to tell you that. But in any event, it's stressful because you need to be on the game of constantly, continually demonstrating to the customer that you're delivering value. Every day I wake up, what can I do today to deliver value? Just before this call, I had the weekly status call with the customer. And so we're saying, this is the accomplishments we did this week. This is why you should retain the adoption and change management services that my team delivers for you, Army Futures Command, because these are the things that we demonstrated value through. And by the way, does this resonate with you? And the answer is yes, because we've already done our due diligence to understand that. So that's very stressful because you can't wait and say, well, I don't feel like working this week. Or you can't say, gee, I did so much last week or last month, I'm going to sit on those laurels. No, every week is new and you're continually managing. And so the challenge there not only is the stress of making sure you're delivering value, but you got a life. Work-life balance is super important to Microsoft and their employees. So you need to gauge your wellness, your well-being, that you don't overwork because you'll get less productive because you'll burn out, plus you'll be unhappy. So my pet phrase is, Microsoft is here to support my family. My family is not here to support Microsoft. That's my work-life balance. But the fact is, because I'm a senior consultant, they always they always say this, well, you're a senior, Ted, so you're expected to do this. I said, yeah, I get it. Okay, yeah, I'm on top of it. So when you're up in the echelons, there is higher expectations of you, but you understand they're not asking you to sell your soul to the company. They know that actually it's counterproductive for them to do so. So you just have to stay up with your game and you just have to have a discipline. So what's the most rewarding? Well, actually, this has been throughout my consulting career, is when you can benefit that individual on the other side of the table and grow them so they feel better about themselves, they feel more proficient, they feel recognized within their company because you imparted knowledge that they didn't know before and they get it. You see these light bulbs go on, and boy, that is so fun. And then when you come back, like maybe sometimes it's a year later or even months later or whatever the case is, they're happy to see you. They're smiling, their face lights up. That's because they associated you and the time you invested in their life as a fragrance and not an odor. And that's one thing I kind of use is, hey, Ted, do some self-analysis. Are you an odor in this situation? Or are you being a fragrance? Hey, don't be an odor, dude. Chill. Come on, just be quiet. So that's the fulfilling thing is you do see your work as reflective in the countenance of your customer and the fact that they have skills that they have now that they didn't have before you started. And that's very gratifying for me.
I like that. And you know what? I think I'm going to start using odor and fragrance around the office too. I think I like that. That's awesome.
Go do it.
Well, so we are coming to our last couple of questions here. So, something that I really want to know, is what advice would you, if you could go back in time and talk to yourself right when you were finishing up at CSULB, what piece of advice would you wish you could give yourself?
Yeah, well, I can share this with everybody, yeah, for sure. So if you know everything, and you can't get along with anybody, no one will want you to be around, and you probably won't get advancements at work, and you may actually get laid off. So one of the things we do when we interview is we understand how that person fits into our team. That's a very high element because we can teach you skills, but soft skills of being able to work collaboratively are very difficult to conjure up. So we want to understand how you work well with others. We understand that everybody has, we call them superpowers. You're gifted in a certain area, you have a certain area of expertise that you've built up through training or whatever. That complements others when you work in concert with them as opposed in competition with them. So the question is, can you collaborate? Do you recognize that strength comes from diversity? Strength comes from diversity. Are you inclusive? You might have a picture of somebody and say, well, they can't know anything. They don't dress well, or they look like this, or they have a hard time with the English language, or their grammar is wrong. But I'm telling you, they have a brain and they have life experience. And I'm telling you, that qualifies them to give you a sense of inspiration that you overlooked. So without them, you are missing that. So that would be a key element that I would encourage going back is, yes, you do need to be proficient. Yes, you do want to develop those superpowers, but understand equal to that, and sometimes actually a little bit more, is your ability to collaborate with others and be a teaming individual and not put off people, but be welcoming and include their view. There's a saying that, the coach takes responsibility for the defeat, but always shares the credit for the victory. And that's part of a leader. We do this. You did a great job, Ted. Well, it was a team, and it really was a team. You guys really screwed up. Yeah, I take responsibility for that. Those are really words. I'm not joking when I say that. You need to, as a leader, take on the responsibility for maybe failure, so to speak, of the team. But when things go well, you need to understand it wasn't you. It was your ability to bring others into the solution. So you spread the credit out, because without those individuals, you would not have been successful. Sometimes they say your name because you're a figurehead, but just recognize it wasn't you. You didn't do this alone. You needed those other folks. So that's what I would do differently is do more on my soft skills and learning how to develop inclusion and diversity earlier in my career. I have that now. But I didn't have that when I started out, because we're all competing with each other. We're thinking, oh, I have to show how I'm better than this other person. No, you need to show how you collaborate and complement that person so that the business is better because of the two of you instead of you alone. So that's what I would do differently.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that is perfect. As we are, you know what, let me just, I gotta say this because another one popped into the chat. Another question came up. So did you ever experience imposter syndrome in your career? And if so, how did you manage to overcome it?
So imposter syndrome mean I'm representing myself as somebody I'm not?
Yeah, or just feeling like you shouldn't be here. You can't.
Yeah,
You,
for sure.
for you.
Totally. You got to get over it. So the answer is yes, because I don't know it all. And I'm being put into these environments where they're being charged a ton of money, So I had to learn soft skills to cultivate trust. In fact, that's the highest level of consultant recognition, is trusted advisor. And the way we become a trusted advisor to our customer is we listen to them and we empathize with their situation. And where I don't know the answer, I tell them I don't know the answer currently, but I can find that out. So I'm owning their situation. So the fact is, you do need to fake it until you make it. And that means you have to have confidence in your ability to come up with the answer given a period of time to research and collaborate with others to come back and address the customer's situation. So you no longer are an imposter if you have a method or a scheme that you can eventually figure it out within a reasonable time so that you give the customer a solution that they can recognize as good. You're no longer an imposter. Yeah, you didn't know it on the spot. You're not a computer. You're not AI like personified, but you created an environment where the customer trusts you to deliver that and knows that you're human. And they're going to give you some slack to go figure out with your team. In fact, they expect that. They're paying for Microsoft, so they know you're not the only smart person here. They want the collective strength of Microsoft. And I'm the person that represents that to that customer. So I'm no longer an imposter. I am the brand of Microsoft. I am the brand of TED. And that is, I'm not going to let you down. I'm never going to let you down. And if I fall short, and I think I'm going to fall short, I'm going to tell you in advance so you can recover and not suffer consequence because of me falling short. That doesn't happen actually, but that's my attitude, that I would say that. I do tell them when I don't have the answer, but then I give them confidence, I'll get the answer. So you're never an imposter. You're basically representing, you're faking it, giving them confidence until you know the answer. So that's what we mean by fake it by them till you make it. You're not misleading them. You're just earning their trust that you will come back with an answer, and then you go on your resources, back to your resources to get that answer. So you're never actually an imposter. It's just how you present yourself. That marketing thing I told you about that I screwed up when I was in that Beverly Hills office, that legal offices. Don't confess you don't know anything, because you do. And in fact, you're probably underselling yourself if you do say you don't know anything, because you have life experience and you went through education, the profs, through the books. I mean, the thing about Long Beach is they teach you how to think. You still have to learn. It's not a vocational school, but they teach you how to think. You have that now. So don't undersell yourself. You've got that degree, or you're growing to that degree. Apply what you have, understand what your strengths are, emphasize that as your superpower so the customer has confidence in you. And the area where you need development, just pull together resources to have that opportunity, strengthened, and then come back with the customer with a solution, and then you'll be just fine. You'll never be an imposter.
Awesome advice. Truly awesome. Well, thank you, Ted, so much for your presentation today. I think that there's so much to be gained out of what you had to share with us, and so much. I mean, I think for myself, I'm taking away like, gotta be more confident, right? And I think that's nothing short of huge. So for those of you in the audience, if you want to watch this again, you want to send it to a friend, this is our website, and please feel free to follow us on any of our social media channels so you can keep up to date with what we're doing, see more of these wonderful chats like we had today with Ted, and all of our other programming. And if you're interested in getting in touch with Ted and continuing this conversation, Ted, how might folks get in touch with you?
Yeah, why don't you reach out to me on LinkedIn? I think my moniker is Hire Ted Hayes. Well, because usually when I'm on LinkedIn, I need a job, but I'm pretty consistent with my employment. I've been at Microsoft over 9 years. So
that's pretty consistent. Yeah.
you can search Ted Hayes. You'll find me out there. You'll see a resume. I haven't updated it since I've been at Microsoft, but you'll see all my previous experience. If something coincides or stimulates you with a question, just chat me. Reference that you were part of this CSULB alumni chat, so I know the context of your question. I get a lot of people hit me up. I honestly don't like it, but if you reference yourself as CSULB, then I will more than be delighted. I'd be more than happy to answer whatever question you might have. So please engage me through LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Ted. And thank you so much for your time. And hey, everyone, reach out to Ted because he's here to help.
Amen.
Awesome. Thank you guys all so much for joining in today. That's the end of our chat, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.